Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice Radio. So today, we need to take a look at a Pokemon that we didn't expect to win. But it's actually gone and done some winning, which is a little bit confusing. It's the new Seaking. Yeah, that new Seaking card that no one took particularly seriously has gone and started doing some winning over in Japan. Let's have a look, shall we? So, it's 110 HP, stage 1 Pokemon, it's fine. And for 2 colourless energy, it does 50 damage, which I think we can all agree is less than exciting. But it's got an attack for 1 water energy, flip 3 coins for each heads, discard an energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. Now, generally speaking here, remember we don't have any way to manipulate the flips nowadays other than will. We can play Will to guarantee 1 heads, but the reality is it's not good enough. This deck doesn't even play Will. We no longer have Victini, we no longer have Trick Coin, so we're actually just flipping and accepting the results of the flips, which is slightly upsetting. But you should on average hit 1 or 2 every time. 1 in 8 times you'll flip treble heads, yay! But 1 in 8 times you'll flip treble tails, boo! But essentially, we play a bunch of single prize Pokemon, we play a bunch of other Pokemon that can manipulate our opponent's board and discard pile, etc. And actually, it works. But make no mistake, we are playing this as an energy denial deck. This is an energy denial deck. We're using it to get rid of energy. So what other Pokemon do we play here then? Well, one which is really good in a deck like this, Articuno GX, and we're playing it for the GX attack. And what's lovely is, because we're actually playing a water deck with water energy, we can finally not have to play Rainbow with this. It's always played with Rainbow energy. Really, we're looking at the ability here, Cold Crush GX, discard all energy from both active Pokemon. So if your opponent starts mucking around with Welder, gets lots of energy on one Pokemon, etc., you can go ahead and shut them down using Articuno. Now, to be fair, the ability will move a bunch of energy over to it, and then you can hit for 130. It is a viable attacker, and incidentally, it's really the only one you've got in the deck. So, maybe occasionally. Now, we're also playing 1 copy of the Persian from Team Up. We're not playing any Meowth, but we are playing Ditto Prism Star. Bearing in mind, your main Pokemon is a stage 1 anyway, Ditto Prism Star's fairly important. Now, Persian here, we're playing not for Sharp Claws, 30 damage, 90 on a head. Again, as an emergency attack, if you really need to take out a Pokemon with 90 HP or less remaining, and you've already got an energy on there, whack an energy on and flip, but that's not the reason we're playing it. Make 'em pay. 1 colourless energy, 20 damage. If your opponent has 4 or more cards in their hand, they reveal their hand, discard cards you find there until your opponent has exactly 4 cards in their hand. It's hand disruption, but it's hand disruption done at your behest. You have the ability here to decide what you actually want done. There was a Durant that saw quite a lot of play in Greninja decks because it had chip off. Same attack, same cost. However, it was at random. Persian doesn't discard cards from your opponent's hand at random. You get to choose which ones to discard. Now, we obviously play 1 copy of Mew to protect your bench. That's not particularly new or exciting. But we do play a copy here of Girafarig. Girafarig here is pretty important. Girafarig for 1 colourless energy lets you put 2 cards from your opponent's discard pile into their lost zone. Now, the reason this is so good is your opponent might have stuff they can reuse. You might have got rid of a bunch of their Welder, but you know that they've got Pal Pad ready to go to recover it. Use this to put their Welder in the lost zone, and then even when they draw into their Pal Pad, it becomes frankly pointless. There ain't nothing they can do about it. Yay! And then 2 copies of Oranguru. And Oranguru becomes fairly important here. Now, you're only playing 2 Oranguru compared to a free line of Seaking, but Oranguru for 1 colourless energy has resource management. Put 3 cards from your discard pile onto the bottom of your deck in any order. And you can use this to recover any cards you like, but Crushing Hammer. Use this to recover 3 Crushing Hammer so that you can get them back and keep flipping. Play Crushing Hammer, flip heads, discard an energy from one of your opponent's Pokemon. Sounds like fun. We're actually even playing Looker here so that we can draw 3 cards off the bottom of our deck so that we can draw into the cards we put back with Oranguru. This is a fun deck. The whole point of this deck essentially is disruption. You've got Seaking to get rid of their energy. You've got Persian if they've got too many cards in hand, Giraffe Rig if you really need to lost zone some cards from their discard, and Articuno if they build too much energy onto one Pokemon, which incidentally is often what happens. If you've got a bunch of energy denial options, as a deck like this does, your opponent will go, oh no, let me just build a whole bunch of energy onto one bench Pokemon, then I can bring it active and I'll be fine. Well, here, Articuno stops that. And if they just put one energy onto each Pokemon, well, you just play a few Crushing Hammer here and there, and you'll get them and you'll be fine. Now, in terms of trainer cards, what we really need to mention straight off the bat is Lily's Pokédoll. It is a 30 HP Pokemon that does not give up a prize, or it's an item card that you play as a 30 HP Pokemon that does not give up a prize. This could be for buying time in the early game. This could be for buying time in the mid to late game. Maybe they're a card or two away from decking out. Whack this active. Maybe you just need another turn or two to get your stage 1s up. Whack this active. If your opponent is only playing Great Catcher as their gusting, as we know a bunch of decks are, they can't gust around it because you're not playing any GXs or EXs, which means they will be forced to actually attack into it and buy you a turn. It's fun. Now, I've already mentioned Crushing Hammer and Looker, they're fairly important. But we're also playing a couple copies of Belelba and Bryson Man here. And the theory is incredibly simple. I am probably not taking prizes by knocking Pokemon out, so I am trying to disrupt my opponent until they have no cards left in the deck, and I win. Belelba and Bryson Man helps to speed that up by discarding the top 3 cards of their deck. Sounds like fun. We also actually play a copy of Faber here. Every deck can, few decks do. Lets you remove special energy or tools or stadiums. It's a fun little one-off, it works quite nicely. Now, in terms of draw supporters, we got Cynthia and Caitlin, we've got Professor Magnolia. They're pretty standard, really good, awesome draw supporters. There's not really much to say about it, they're great cards. However, we also play one copy of Misty and Lorelei. Now, Misty and Lorelei is awesome. You see, what Misty and Lorelei does is lets you search for free water energy, which could be useful. But far more importantly, it lets you discard 5 cards from your hand and reuse a GX attack on one of your water Pokemon. Articuno. By the way, when I was talking about Great Catcher earlier, I said you played no GXs. Obviously, you do play Articuno. That is your one GX. What I mean is you only play Articuno when you actually need it. It's very easy to just keep it in your... Unless you start with it, it's very easy to keep it off the field until you actually need it. So you're essentially not playing any until you really want to. This allowing you to reuse that GX attack is wonderful and helps immensely. Our stadium card of choice here is Chaotic Swell, one copy. If our opponent is really relying on a stadium, we play this down. They play their own stadium. Oh no, now they can't do anything. And even though we're only playing one copy, our opponent plays a stadium. We replace it with Chaotic Swell. Our opponent goes to play another stadium. Oh no, ladies and gentlemen. Would you believe it? That gets discarded by Chaotic Swell as well. Look how that worked out. Now, in terms of item cards, we do play 4 copies of Custom Catcher. We need to be able to gust anything into the active so we can get rid of their energy, stall them out, etc. Really good for pulling up high retreat Pokemon and wasting time. So this works nicely. In terms of Pokemon search, we're playing Quick Ball to search our basics, we're playing Evolution Incense to search out our evolutions, and we're playing Pokemon Communication to swap a Pokemon we don't want in our hand for a Pokemon we do want in our deck. Sounds quite good. We are playing Normal Rod or Fishing Rod or whatever it's actually called that lets us recover both energy and Pokemon, that's pretty important, as well as a copy of Lana's Fishing Rod that lets us get back a Pokemon or a Pokemon tool. Nah, I'm only joking. It's both in one. Speaking of Pokemon tool, we're playing Lucky Egg. Lucky Egg here is great. Lucky Egg, if it's attached to a Pokemon and that Pokemon gets KO'd, you get to draw until you got 7 cards in your hand. Well, not only are you playing a bunch of single prize Pokemon, so your opponent's going to have to KO a bunch to win, but you're actually also playing Lily's Pokédoll, which will work with this quite nicely as well. We've then just got a couple copies of Balloon to give free retreat to your Pokemon. Really good if you've got something like an Oranguru in the active that you really want to get out of the active, to switch for something like a Seaking, which incidentally also has a retreat cost of 2. You may well end up having a switch between your Pokemon here. This allows you to do so quite nicely indeed. This is a weird kind of deck. It is not a deck I expected to see winning and doing really well, but actually it's winning and doing really well. It's not the usual kind of deck, and Seaking is not a card that I've seen any real hype for whatsoever since it was revealed. But the fact of the matter is, it does just enough, and we might finally have a really good energy denial deck, and that makes me rather happy indeed. But I'd like to know what you think about it, so let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice, and then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WasiPlays, where we talk about a whole bunch of games that don't have Pokemon in, but do have awesome. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.